We are up to Daf Kuv Vav Amud Aleph, the very top of the page. We're concluding the laws of Chalitza. You already saw how it's done these days, but this is the last block of how it's done. Tadarabanan, we learned Chalitza Mutas, a Chalitza that was basically a trick, Sheda. It's still a valid Chalitza. We'll soon see what that means. Eizei Chalitza Mutas. What exactly do you mean by that? The Shlakish said, for example, she wanted to make sure she gets a chalitza. She's not interested in marrying a brother-in-law, so therefore she puts this into play, and it's effective. She said, "We tell the guy, give her chalitza, we trick him into believing that this is how he will marry her, and she gives a chalitza. Once she gives a chalitza, that's it. They can no longer obviously get married, and then she's set free." You're allowed to do that. Rabbi said, I don't understand. We just learned recently in the last few days that if she, for example, ever unties his shoes, if she's growing up in between a brother-in-law, it's not a valid chalitza because he and she did not have kavanah. So here also, when this guy gave the chalitza, his intention was to set her free. And on the contrary, he thought that this way he will be marrying her. So there's no kavanah here. In a way, it's even worse. It's an opposite kavanah. The opposite of what chalitza is supposed to be doing. He wants to tie the knot, not to release her. So therefore, how can you say that this is a valid chalitza? Ani I hold mention is kavan who, whether his intention was not hers. So mention is kavan he, who chalitza psul. It's always possible. Achi is kavish name ke'echad. You both of them to have intention. The amrit. The adam, and you tell me chalitza sheda. You tell me this is a kosher chalitza. How can that be? Ella, he says, I'll tell you what chalitza mutas means. Normally, if you give a get, you say to her, this get, we're Daf Kuv Vav Amud Aleph, about 7 lines on top of the page, and we're saying here that a tricky chalitza is valid. So we try to understand what a tricky chalitza is. In other words, she doesn't want to get married to the guy, but she wants to get out, and he's not interested. He wants to marry her. So Rabbi Shlaki says, we convince the guy that by giving her chalitza, you're marrying her. And then afterwards, he finds out he'll set her free. So Rabbi Yechon says, but you need kavanah. How can it be a good chalitza? So by a get, if you make a tanai, if I give a get and I say on the tanai that she gives me $200, she doesn't give me $200, the get is unravels. So same over here. Say to the guy, give her a chalitza, she'll give you $200. But the difference is by chalitza, even if she does not give him the $200, she is free. Why is that? What's the difference? Because you have to think about it. Basically, more kedushin and all that. You have to think about it. Well, Bas says, well, we have to think about it. How do words cannot break Maisa. How do words break a Maisa? How is it I make it tonight? I gave her a get. The man gave her a get, and she did a Maisa, and then he made a tonight, and the tonight, if he doesn't fulfill the tonight, if she doesn't fulfill the tonight, the tonight gets unraveled. How do words break a Maisa? There's only one way. We learn that from Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuben. Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, if you guys go to the front and you guys are prepared to fight on behalf of the Bnei Yisrael, then you can keep the Eber Yad and the Transjordan. And if you don't, then you don't. So there they had a Maisa, and they're going to give them part of Transjordan, the other side of Eber Yad, but they gave it tonight. And we learn a number of dinim of tonight. In fact, we learn all the dinim of tonight. In order for tonight to work, it has to be similar. The question is whether you need all the conditions or not. For example, tonight couple. You have to say, if you do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, this won't happen. Like a tonight couple and tonight kain l'mais, many different things. One of them is that in order for tonight to work, you have to be able to appoint an agent to do this. For example, by get, I can appoint a shliach to go ahead and to give the get on my behalf. So therefore, since you can appoint a shliach, that means you are in total control. I'm so much in control, I can even pass it on to somebody else. So therefore, I'm also total control that I can make it tonight. But in a case where I cannot appoint a shliach, I cannot make it tonight. So by chalitza, you cannot appoint a shliach. So the pasuk says you have to put it on his foot. So the pasuk goes a few times and says you and his. So therefore, we say it has to be. You can't make a shliach to take over things that have to do with the guf. So because you cannot appoint a shliach chalitza, nor can you make it tonight. But most people are not aware of that. So you tell the person, give her a chalitza, she'll give you $200. Show him the chalitza, she'll give you $200, and at the end, she doesn't have to give it. We learned chalitza mutas. What does it mean? What's the definition of a tricky chalitza? Give a chalitza on the condition you will receive $200. And now the Gemara gives an example. There was an incident with a woman should not leave Nayab. After her husband died, she had to marry a brother-in-law, which she despised. She ain't Hogan, it was inappropriate for her. But Amrullah, and the rabbi said, Chaloitzla, they Amrullah told this guy, Chaloitzla, give her chalitza, almanas, shetitelecha masayim zuz, and she'll give you $200. He was happy to do it. For money, he was happy to do that. And he said, it's a valid chalitza, and you don't have to give her the money. Now the Gemara tells a story. Somebody came to and he said to her, "Biti Amoidi." He said to her, "Beat my daughter." Rashi has two versions of what actually happened there. One version is, "Biti my daughter Amoidi, stop here, and you will marry this person. Go marry this person." That's one version. The other version is the other explanation Rashi has is stand up, physically stand up, and Teisha says from here maybe it shows that Chatchila you have to be standing. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world. But she has to be standing. Amrulay, she said, Ima, the mother of the girl said, she no. According to the first shot, let her sit here and not marry the guy. It's better for her that way. And the second version is she's crippled and therefore it's better for her to sit so that the cripple, she can't stand. Amrulay, does he know? Do you know him? Why doesn't she want to marry the guy? Does she realize the guy, there's something wrong with the guy? Amrulay, she said, yes. I think he loves her. I think he wants her. He found out that she has a big Yerusha. He wants to marry her, whittle away the Yerusha, and then divorce her. He wants to consume her Yerusha and then throw her out in the street. Sometimes you have meddling mothers. So Chia turned around. Turned around to the girl. You don't want to marry this guy? Amrulay, she said, no. Amalei. So he turned around to the guy and he said, Chaloitzla, give a chalitza, ubekach, and he tricked her. And he said, this is how you're going to marry her. The boss of the chalitza, after you get chalitza, Amala, he said to him, he said, look, you just gave a chalitza. She's not free yet because you didn't intend to give her chalitza, but what you did was enough that you can no longer marry her. Is chalitza ma'isa. Now give her a chalitza, a good chalitza, and according to Mendes Shem, he can actually force her now because he can't marry anyway. You must give her chalitza, set her free, and you can force her. To prepare to the world. Now over here, what happened was he actually gave this tricky chalitza, thinking he's marrying her, and then he said, "Look, it's too late. You can no longer marry her." So the big machlekes is showing him because a minute ago we said that if you have no intention, nothing happens. So somebody's trying to say this is part of the trick. They convinced him that the chalitza he gave was effective. As far as he's concerned, he cannot marry her, which wasn't true. But they had no choice. They tricked him so that he should give her a proper chalitza with the right intentions. So the second chalitza was valid. The first one was ineffective, but they just tricked him and said that. Or others say no. There's two parts to it. One is that she can no longer marry the brother-in-law. The other one that she's set free. As far as marrying the brother-in-law is enough, if one of them had in mind to be free, that this chalitza is effective, one of them had that in mind, that's enough to ask her on the brother-in-law. In order to be mat in the world, they both have to have kavanah. So therefore it's correct saying that now that you gave chalitza, she definitely wanted to be a chalitza, so therefore you're us. More to the story now, again, a story with a sad ending like yesterday. How careful you have to be when you deal with Amoraim. It says the Gemara, the Bas Chamud Rapapa, the daughter of the father-in-law Rapapa, in other words, his sister-in-law Naflos Nayavim fell for a brother-in-law, her husband's brother, Shein Hagen-law, that was totally inappropriate from her, totally inappropriate for her. Also, came for Abaya, Amaleh, he said, Chaloit's law, he told her, to this guy, give her a chalitza, that's how you marry. No, you use the same trick as Chibar Abba. Papa says, it's ineffective. So it sounds like Papa didn't agree with Chibar Abba, no, it sounds more like the other pshat that Itaka, even a Chibar Abba, it wasn't effective at all, but he tricked the brother-in-law, and for whatever reason, Papa Labai didn't feel comfortable, lying to that person. In that case, Bella, hey, Sabai said, you don't want me to say that. So what do you want me to say to this guy? How am I going to get him to give a chalitza? Amalei, he said, tell him that give chalitza in order to give $200. And Chibar Abba didn't use that trick for a simple reason. The guy wanted all her money. Paying him more for $200 is not going to do it because he wanted her whole capital. That's why he had no choice but to use that other trick or other ruse. So the Papa says here we don't have to resort to that. That white lie. So why don't you go ahead and just tell them you're going to give $200? That'll be a good incentive for your chalitza. Then don't give it. The boss of the Chalos after Chalitza Amala Abai turned around to the girl and said, Zil Havle Abai said to the girl, give him now the $200. Why? Because Abai, the way Rashi explains, Abai holds. I'll tell you in a second. Amalei, so Papa says to Abai, why in the world should this girl have to pay the $200? What she did was she tricked him. In other words, when you are, as we learned, when you're under pressure and you make a promise, if the promise is not the conventional way of doing things, you don't have to keep it because you never intended to keep it. You just said anything that came out of your mouth in order to get out of these situations. For example, me like Tanya, didn't we learn? How to show you? But let's see, some guy is fleeing from prison. There was a waterway in front of him. He said to the captain of the ship, "To dinner. Here's a dinner, which is a lot of money. It's excessive amount to pay. Transfer me across the river. You don't have to pay another side only what the normal pay is, not this, because you were compelled to make this irrational commitment because you wanted to save yourself." You have the right to say, I was just tricking you. Here also, she was desperate to get in the chalitza. She promised $200. She never intended to give it. But Abaye said, you have to give it $200 because he said, even though, since the chalitza is a kosher chalitza, you got what you wanted. So therefore, even though it's not as a condition, what do you call it? You have to pay. Like schiris, you have to pay. Like you hire somebody to do a job for you. Same go here. You still have to fulfill, according to Abai, where Rashi explains, you still have to fulfill your tonight. Like anytime you hire somebody, you have to pay for their time. So you have to pay the $200. And Papa disagreed, and he says, no, this is under coercion, and you don't have to keep it at all. And then, there's big arguments, by the way, very in all kinds of halachas. When you promise people, you need something desperately, and you promise people exorbitant amounts, whether you have to actually pay it or not. And the general rule is that if it's something that has a fixed price, and you promise something much greater because you need it desperately, you might not have to keep it at all. But if it's something that you cannot really fix a price, then if you cannot really fix a price, and it depends on what the guy wants to charge, and you promise a crazy price, you have to pay it, because how do you know you overpaid? Somebody's an expertise, you get somebody who spent years and years studying, you hire an actuary to do something for you. And there's no real fixed price because it depends on the work. And the actuary is charging you not for the 20 minutes, not the 20 minutes that it takes him to do the job. The actuary is charging you for the 10 years that it took him, or 20 years it took him to learn, to get to this place. So therefore, there's no fixed value. Then whatever price you promised, you have to keep. Anyway, Abaye was, Papa was a student of Abaye. And usually Abaye is so shocked. Something happened here. The guard was a little bit down. So look what happened at the end. Not a very nice ending. So the Gemara says Abaye turned around to the Papa, and he said to him, where's your father live? Right here in town. And where's your mother live? Abaye asked her Papa, I live in Masa town. So Abaye said, no wonder he's much more settled than I am. I have to work in the farm. We had him that he worked 2 months a year in the farm, and he was always preoccupied. You're a Papa, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. A big chacham that you're much more settled, and therefore you can think things through logically. He was a bit jealous of Rav Papa, and both of his parents died. Not that was Abaye's intention, but that's what happened when you cross paths with a Talmud Chacham and you are not sensitive to them. Yesterday we learned that the guy's son's drowned, his daughters walked out on their husbands, and he got a tzaras because he just wasn't sensitive enough. This is even worse. Nobody was upset or anything else. Just that's what happened. So what we learned. Chalitza matask sheda, tricky chalitza is kosher, but a get muta puzzle, a tricky get is puzzle. We'll soon see. Chalitza musa psula, force chalitza is puzzle, but get musa kosher, force get for bezin, forces someone to give a divorce. It's a valid get. Now says hey chidami. What are we talking about? In other words, buy a get. If I say I'll give you $200, if she doesn't give you $200, the get is possible because the Tanai there is valid. We learn that from I tell you, Tanai b'nei Gad b'nei Reuben, it's a valid Tanai. By Chalitza, the Gemara Ksuvah says it's not a valid Tanai because you cannot appoint a shlich, you cannot make a Tanai. That is why, the Kiva Ege and all of these Achreim have a big discussion. It says, if you, if let's say you're not sure if you can say Krishma Bismana on Shabbos, you say Krishma in the morning before, and you have in mind, make it tonight. If I daven before the Zman, then the Krishma in davening will be my main Krishma, because ideally you should say the bracha before Krishma and after Krishma. If my davening, by the time I say Krishma davening will be after the Zman, then this should be my Krishma. And they talk about how can you make it tonight, since you cannot have a shliach davening on your behalf or saying Shema, and how can you make it tonight? As it says right here, anything which you cannot appoint a shliach, you don't have total control, nor can you make it tonight. Why is that different? The simple answer is, when do we make that rule when it's a tonight versus a maisa? In other words, I said I do a maisa chalitza and I make it tonight. I want the tonight to break the chalitza. Since I'm not in total control, I cannot have a shliach doing my chalitza, nor can I break it with words. But over here, it's words against words. Words of Krishma saying Krishma, and words of a Tanai to undo what I said because I want to be Yaitz with a later Krishma. Words can break words even though you cannot appoint a shliach. But words cannot break Maisa if you cannot appoint a shliach. That's perhaps the simple answer. And yeah, talking about further, but now what's this forced get? What are we talking about here? You're making a distinction between a get and a chalitza. What are we talking about? The guy, the husband then says, I want to give it. The chalitza doesn't work as well. If he doesn't say, I want it, then get namila. Neither should work. You're right. This is what we meant to say. Chalitza mutas lo elan kosher. A chalitza that's trick is always kosher. Tonight has no bearing. Get mutar lo elan pasal. A tricky get does not work because you have to fulfill your condition. Chalitza mu'usis, a forced chalitza. The get mu'usa and a forced get. Zimnin kosher, but zimnin pasal. Sometimes, occasionally, they both have the same din. If the guy says at the end, he says, I want to, as the Rambam explains, because deep down every person has a neshama who actually wants to do the right thing. So when you beat out from him the negativity, then his true self comes out. Then it works in both cases. And if he doesn't say right, how do I know that works? The time to be learned. Yaakov, it says in the pasuk that if you bring the carbon oilam, you should bring it to the oilam. It says Yaakov oisel tzonei. Should we bring it, but to the tzonei? Yaakov sounds like we make him bring it. And then the little tzonei, he has to do it willingly. How's that work? Melamed shekayfen said we force him. Yochel b'korch against his will. Tamleim little tzonei. Okay, so how can Yaakov means he is made to be bring it, and little tzonei means willingly. How's that work? Okay, so you beat him, you force him until eventually he exceeds. We get by getting Amar Rav says Rav just by Kabbalah says by getting the same thing by Chalitz. Amar Rav says Rav Amar Rav Scheide says the name Rav Scheide Amar Rav name Rav Hun. We give now this is an interesting opinion here. The Bezdin can give chalitza afapish emakin. They have no idea who this woman is. They have no idea who his brother is. How do you even know it's a brother? Maybe hopefully it's a false pretense. Maybe she wants to go free, so she brings some actor into the courtroom and goes through the drama of a chalitza. And how do we know? It doesn't matter. And also we let the girl come in. Has they done it from a Bezdin? We let her come in, even though we don't know for sure that this is the husband that she was married. Therefore, because the Bezdin doesn't know, we need to know somehow. We give them a document, a get chalitza or get mian. Ain't koshin get chalitza elin kemakin. The witnesses have to know. The ain't koshin get mian elin kemakin. The witnesses have to know the mian as well. They have to know that this is actually her brother-in-law before they sign off on it, because that is the true testament that she is a free woman. So Bezdin doesn't matter because they're relying on the witnesses. The Chayshin the Bezdin time, we're worried that if she comes into another Bezdin with this document, they won't do any investigations because they can assume that the first Bezdin did all the proper investigations without realizing they don't know that a Bezdin doesn't have to do any investigations, and therefore the Eidim must know exactly what they're doing. The Rav did but that's what Rav is saying the name of Rav Scheide. Personally, he believes just the opposite. The Bezdin needs to make sure they know there's a brother-in-law. They don't accept me unless they make the investigation, make sure this is it. The witnesses can sign, doesn't matter whether they know who they are or not. They don't have to be related. Because everyone knows that the Bezdin did their own homework. They know exactly who's who. Anyway, so again, we see that we told yesterday, we learned Aidin from the story of the jail, that you need Aidin to witness the whole thing, and then you have the document as well, signed by witnesses. Kuvav Beis Mishnah. Mitzvah Chalitza, this is how the Mitzvah Chalitza is done. And he and the brother-in-law come to Bezdin. He and her sister-in-law, his sister-in-law, come to Bezdin. First, we learned right before. They look at the situation and they try to advise correctly. For example, if he's too old, if he's too young, they say it's not going to work. Remember, it says they speak to him. They should speak to him, not to be used to teach you need two more judges, but rather that they should talk to him and see whether this looks like a match or not. It still has to be a suitable match. I met her. Then the first thing does, she gets up and she quotes the pasuk where it says, remember we had it yesterday, we were in a sort of video. She says that the guy, this man here, does not want to marry me. He doesn't want to marry me, and he refuses to continue the legacy, perpetuate the legacy of his brother. Then she finishes up. This is all part of the same pasuk. He refuses to marry me. He says back, yes, I don't want to marry. They say so. So it's either. So they say the psukim and she repeats after that. And then it says the pasuk, so she approaches to this guy. She approaches the brother-in-law. This Kanim have to be able to see. The cholza nala, she removes the shoe. Al ragla, he does nothing. She does everything. She removes the shoe, and then the yarkov of fun spits in front of him. Raylan, a few days ago, it doesn't matter. The seder doesn't matter which way we do. Whichever way does all right. In fact, remember we had Sholchud Avu Shmuel that even if you don't spit, still the mice is still good. Roik hanila dayanim. It has to be a spittle that the dayanim can actually see. Then the answer of Amra after that she says, this should happen to a person that shall leave the Beis Achim, refuses to build up the brother's house. Until here they used to read from the Torah. That's all they read from the Torah, which is basically that whole pasuk, or that second half of pasuk. But Hurkes, however, was standing out there in his city and he was doing it in front of his Talmidim. During Chalitza, but Gomer Kol Parsha, he continued reading the psukim, the entire parsha. Huchazakul became the minigly as Gomer Kol Parsha that we read the entire parsha. But Nikra Shmoi Yisrael, Beis Chalutz, his name should be called amongst Eden. This is the house that the shoe was removed from. Mitzvah b'dayanin, v'lei mitzvah tamidu. Only the dayanim make that declaration, not the students who are witnessing it. And Abuda mitzvah al kol ha'imdim sham leimer chalutz hanal. Abuda says everyone should scream out Beis Chalutz Hanol. And we learned last time for two reasons. First of all, to make sure everyone knows that she cannot marry Kohen. And second, well, we should know that she's free now and she can marry anybody. And she's a free woman. This is the order. This is the order. Now the question is, what's he adding to the Mishnah? Mitzchalitza is Koira. She says a few psukim with Koide. Then he says lechafatzti. Then lecheletza, she removes the shoe. Then lereika, she spits Koira, and she then finishes off by saying that kocha yashlish. My kamashlan masisi. Exactly what our Mishnah says. How kamashlan mitzvah? It's only a mitzvah. The after if you reverse the order or alter it in any way, it doesn't matter. That's what we learned. We learned whichever order you do, it makes no difference. You get chalitza when a person. Now, this is what we. I don't know if you saw the first video that Patil sent. They used the word that she should say the word. She should say the words like "ova yabmi." They use the words in minishima achas. Minishima achas usually means one breath, but what they actually meant to say was that without a pause between the words. What do you mean without a pause? This is what Abai says. When you read the Gechalitza, don't make a pause. Say, no, she says, he doesn't want to marry me. Shouldn't say loy, pause, and then and then because if you make a pause, it could be read as like my brother does want to marry me. So you put them together in close proximity. Loy yabmi, my brother does not want to marry me. The mashma of a yami doesn't want to marry me. Loy of a yami, put it together. Loy of a yami, don't. My brother doesn't want to marry me. That's number one. Then he answers back, loy chafatzi lekachta. I don't want to take her. He also should make a pause because if he makes a pause between loy and then the next two words chafatzi lekachta, it sounds like chafatzi lekachta. I do want to take her. But loy lechude chafatzi lechude. The mashma then it would be read chafatzi lekachta. I do want to marry you. Loy chafatzi lekachta. Put them together. Comes when Rava argues on the second din. Rava says regarding like chafatzi lekachta, says Rava that Afsukim Milsi, all it is you're taking a pause in the middle of a sentence of a phrase, and that doesn't really concern us at all if you're being mafsik in the middle. So Rashi Ashkar of Kahana of Rashi, he saw that Rav Kahana there was in pain. And he was telling her, you say loy oba yabni. Put it together, make sure you know. And it took her a while, I guess, till she be able to say it. What do you so big? What's the big deal? Rava said it doesn't matter. He said you misunderstood Rava. Rava was talking about the part that the husband says, because all the husband says is 3 words. Loy chafatzi lekachta. So if he says loy and he pauses, it doesn't mean anything. Loy no what. So therefore, it's obvious what he's trying to say is loy chafatzi lekachta, because he said nothing before the word loy. However, by her, she's saying a whole bunch of psukim, a whole bunch of words, and one of the words are main yevami. What do you call it? She starts with Me'en Yevami Lahakim La'achiv Shem Yisrael. He refuses to, and then it says Loi Ava Yabmi. Because she said those words Lahakim Shem Achiv Yisrael Loi, you could put the word Loi before and then pause and then Ava Yabmi. You could somehow or another reinterpret her words because there were words before then. That's why Rav agrees with Abaya regarding what she says. Don't make a pause, but regarding what he says, it doesn't matter. Says Rav agrees. The loy ava yabni. When it comes to loy ava abni, shouldn't be any pause, because otherwise the word loy can mean it's a continuation before. You could read exactly the opposite. He doesn't want to marry loy. Not he doesn't want to marry. It's like a double negative. No, he does. He does want to marry me. So you can reinterpret it, and we don't want to have any fakers whatsoever. When you write the get of chalitza, what you do, write lichta of hachi. Write the following. We don't want to write full psukim, because you're not allowed to write full psukim unless you do sirtut, which is like etched lines in the parchment. So do not do, and we'll have more gittin above there when you do need, when you don't need. So he says here, Haiman de kosev gita de chalitza lichta of hachi. Write the following. Akrino ledida, mean for her. We read to her from the word me'ein yivami till ad other yami. He does. In other words, we don't write all the words in between. We just say this is a quick summary, and we just have 2 words in front, because the machlek is if you're not allowed to write 4 words of a pasuk or 3 words. We're going to adopt 4 words here, so we're not going to write 4 words of a pasuk without sirtu. And for him, we said min loy from the word loy until the word lekachta. Then we went back to her and we read min kocha for the word kocha ad chalitzanal until chalitzanal, the kocha yoslish until chalitzanal, and again. So what we did was we only put a few words on, and not in order. So we took one word from the beginning of the pasuk and 1 word from the end of the pasuk. Okay, so and Mazutra, what he did was Misharted, he actually used to go ahead and put those etched lines there. Ukasiv Lagula Parsha, he would actually write the entire Parsha. He would write the entire Parsha. And he would say, we read to her from the word Ein Yevami, and would then write every single word down, what they said, all the words that she used, and so on. Well, it's much more than 3 words or 4 words. So the Gemara Maslamar, you're not allowed to write more than 4 words. How can you do that? The Gemara answered, the halacha is like Marzutra, that that you could write, and he did a shit, and he write the whole thing down. He would write the whole thing down. Why is it not a problem? Because it's not like when we say don't write a Megillah Gemara Gittin of some, don't write a little scroll for a Talmud, that took them down, because there you're trying to write a little pocket Torah. You're not allowed to write a bridge version of the Torah or a small excerpt parts of the Torah. You can't do that. Over here, because the Torah was given chasum and it all in one go, according to Rabbi Yechon. But over here, you're just telling a story. This is what happened, right? So you're not trying to write a Sefer Torah here at all. You're just trying to tell us a story. The woman said this, the man said this, and therefore the halacha mazuta you can, because there's a mitzvah here you can. What happened? Remember we said that you have to spit in front of the guy. Amar Abaya, so says Abaya. The Yarkab Bitfanab. She had to spit in front of the guy. So let's say she spit in front of the guy, but called Tashe Ruach. The wind suddenly came along, and before it went in front of this guy, and he carried the spit away. Because it has to be in front of the person. My time of why the Yarkab Bitfanab. Therefore, interesting outcome. Let's say the guy is very tall. She's very short. Called Tashe Ruach. She spat, and the wind came and carried away. The second, when it came out of her mouth, it was in front of him. A second later, it was gone. Doesn't matter. But the other way around, she was very tall. She was very short. Then if she spits and the wind carries it away, it was never in front of him because it's above his head. It has to go in front of him, but then the wind carries away, it doesn't matter. Let's say she ate garlic, and then she spat. She ate some kind of, I don't know, dirt or something. The rocks spat it out, because you couldn't keep it in your mouth and it caused you to spit out of your mouth. By time of the yorkam atzbin, it has to be your own spit coming out. But like here, the garlic caused you to spit, or the gargish caused you to spit. We need the Yonim should also see exactly. It says La'eni has Kani in the York. The Einias also have to see exactly how this. If you saw over there how the judges all move forward to see how the spit comes out of the mouth. V'nikish Rabbi Yisrael based chalutanal mitzvah b'dayonim. Tamitad says that when dayonim say it, not the students. Tani we learned. Rabbi said, Pamach is once a union made of Tarfim. What's in for a Tarfim? The boss, Yevama came along and she wanted to give Chalitza. Amalanu, and Tarfim said to us, Anu Kulchem, I want you all to respond, Chalitza now. I want you all to say 3 times Chalitza now, so that's why you say it 3 times. And I want everyone who's participating. So the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda, who lived after Tarfim, but the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. Because the Tarfim is the one who said it. Okay, Hadnalach mitzvah chalitza, and we sort of go back now to now goes the laws of miyun, and we go back to Yevamos a little bit, but only another 2 weeks or so.